Does your home practice feel a little bit sluggish? Or sometimes you come to the mat and you don't know what to do, or sometimes you can't even get to the mat. Well, one of the best things that a good friend of mine, Bruce Black, gave to me was being able to practice with your journal. I've got my journal and I've got Bruce's book, Writing Yoga, a guide to keeping a practice journal. And because I like to write and because my mind is often very full when I come to the yoga mat, I like to have a journal with me to write down some of these thoughts. And sometimes it could be a grocery list. So it doesn't matter as long as I have the opportunity to put something on the page, it frees my mind. Sometimes I do manage to write some very inspiring and creative things, but most of the time it's a way to just unload the thoughts so that I can draw my mindful awareness to the practice. This is a simple practice that just allows you to explore 5 basic poses in yoga. They're probably the first 5 yoga poses that you learned. We'll begin standing in Tadasana, mountain pose. Stand tall. Engage from your toes as you spread them, lift them, draw them down, and pull from the toes all the way to the pelvis to engage the leg muscles. Do the same with the hands. Spread your fingers. Draw your thumbs back, your baby fingers forward as you draw from the fingers toward your heart and to the pelvis. You get this nice engaged stance in Tadasana. From here, reach your arms up. Take your hands over to one side in a nice crescent stretch. Rise up. Take your hands to the opposite side. And rise up. Come back to Tadasana. Breathe in deep and out long. If during some of these very basic poses you feel like it's time to write a little something down, thoughts come to you, then go ahead. Your journal's right there. Make your way to all fours position. In all fours position, come down to your belly. Place your hands right alongside your ribs so that as you come up to all fours position again, you know exactly where your hands should be for downward facing dog. Lift up to downward facing dog. It's a pose you do a lot in your yoga practice. So feel free to find freedom in movement. Just bend one knee. Straighten the leg and bend the opposite. As if walking in place. Just pause. And if thoughts come to you, just let them be free. Write them down. Or let your breath just carry them away. Now, from downward facing dog, look forward, walk your feet forward, place your hands to your low back, rise up, Tadasana again. Breathe in deep and out long. Breathe in and out long. And again, breathe in, reach your arms up and back. Exhale, take your hands to the mat and step back to downward facing dog again. In downward facing dog, lift your heels high, bend your knees, lift your sit bones high. Come toward straight legs. Swivel your heels over to the right, back to center. Swivel the heels to the left, back to center. Walk your feet up to your hands. Place your hands at your hips. Rise up, Tadasana, that number one of standing poses, the home base of standing poses. As you draw the heads of your arm bones back to open the upper chest, as you root down from the pelvis to your feet, feel a nice lengthening quality from the pelvis to the shoulders. Now reach your arms up and all the way up to the fingertips. Feel this nice lengthening quality. On the exhale breath, take your hands down to the mat. Come to downward facing dog again. In downward facing dog. Lift your right foot away from the mat. Lift it way high. Bend your right knee. Get a nice stretch through the right thigh. Release your right foot down. Take your left leg up. Reach the hip high. Bend your knee. Release your left foot down. Walk your feet up to your hands. Take your hands at the hips. Rise up. You've done two yoga poses, the Tadasana, the standing pose, and downward facing dog in variations. As you pause, maybe you have some reflections on those poses. You breathe in deep and out long. Just allow your breath to be very full. As thoughts come to you, you can write them down or you can just let your breath just carry them off. To create just a little bit more mindful awareness of your practice and of your breath. Now take your arms up and reach them back. Take your hands down to the mat and step your right foot back. Bring your right knee to the earth. With your right knee to the earth, take your hands right above your left knee. And drop yourself into the pose by allowing that pelvis to get very heavy and just settle in. I've got blocks here and sometimes the pose just feels a lot better to me if I use the blocks to create length from the pelvis to the heart and to the shoulders. As you hug the shoulder blades in, keep on allowing the pelvis to draw down. What sensations do you have here? Maybe that's something you want to write down to remember. As you start a home practice with this great awareness, with an ability to articulate these sensations that you're having in the poses, feel free to play, to create other yoga poses that work for you. Take your hands to the mat if they were on blocks and step your back foot forward. Place your hands to your low back. Rise up once again, the home base of yoga poses, Tadasana. Breathe in deep and out long, and let the exhale breath just be an expression of letting go completely. The inhale breath, you build this inner fire. The exhale breath, you just let go. Inhale, reach your arms up and slightly back. Exhale, take your hands to the mat. Step your left leg back. Bring your left knee down. Come to a lunge pose again. Hands can be on top of the right knee, or they can be on your blocks, whatever. This third pose, lunges in yoga, something that you'll see a lot. Nice way to open the hips. And as you do this muladhara, this base of the spine, this rooting quality that you get from the pelvis, as you draw down, you can feel a nice quality of lifting up as you root down and find more stability. You also find this freedom in the upper body. You can have your hands to the blocks, hands to the mat, arms reach up if you wish, and you find nice fullness to the front side of the body, nice openness. Release your hands down to the mat and step your back foot forward. And come to Tadasana again. Just breathe in and out long. So I call those the top 3 of poses. I'd say those 3 poses we just did, Tadasana, downward facing dog, and lunge, you'll find in many practices, if not most of your practices. Now let's come to a seated pose. In the seated pose, have your legs straight. Now for some of us, this causes some upper back rounding. See if you can sit tall in this. And if that's a little challenging for you, maybe putting a blanket underneath your pelvis will help you get tall from the pelvis to the crown of the head. Engage your legs, spread your toes, and in this home base of seated poses, can you get tall even in the seated stance? You're more forward on your sits bones. Just notice how that feels. As you engage the breath, as you draw the breath in and out through the nose, take your hands right on top of the thighs and just allow the hands to just draw forward. Now, if you feel like there's a lot of tugging behind the knees, lift your knees up, but keep the spine as elongated as possible as you draw your hands forward. Now, lengthen and come back to the pose that we started in. As you spread your toes, as you draw from your toes and heels to your knees, you feel the kneecaps lifting up. Feel a whole engagement of the front side of the leg. Try to keep that with your hands. Now just moving toward your feet, maybe you have to lift your knees slightly in order to keep the spine as elongated as possible. You draw your hands down. You draw your hands toward your feet, maybe to your feet, and you rise up. Dandasana, this home base and seated pose, is a nice opportunity as you feel these sensations to maybe write some of those sensations down. What does it bring up for you? Can you allow yourself to just pause after each cycle of drawing forward, sitting tall, keeping the legs engaged? And a third cycle, we'll bend the knees slightly for some of us, or keep them straight as possible, Draw from the heels down as you pull from the heels to the pelvis, as you reach your heart forward and rise up. The great thing about these home-based poses is that you can do so many variations when you're in them. You can bend one knee and come to a twist if you like, and find out for yourself like what variations might work for you. You can take your legs wide apart and come to the forward bend like we were doing. That's how you can create a nice home practice. You keep on building poses onto what you already know. Now let's lie down. So as you lie down, with your knees bent, just pause here. Take your attention to your breath with your hands to your belly. On the in-breath, you just breathe in to that low belly area and you feel it with the hands. You feel the expansion. And on the exhale breath, just notice how you can use the hands to just kind of help exhale the breath. And the hands kind of help you slow things down because you've got this tactile impression as you breathe in through the nose. You feel how the breath affects so many organs. You can feel effects all the way to the pelvis. And again, with just a little pressure, little weight from the hands as you draw the breath out. You just notice the difference. You breathe in, you expand so fully. You breathe out and you just release. You can keep your knees bent if you wish, or straighten your legs to come to Savasana. This is a very important yoga pose. So often people dismiss this. They feel like it's not part of the yoga practice, but it is such an important part of bringing mindfulness to your practice. As you continue just following the breath, you can keep your hands at your belly, or you can release your arms to your side. Take your awareness to your breath. The breath draws in, and even without the pressure of the hands, you just imagine that external help, just allowing the exhale breath to be so full and complete. Breathe in deep and long. You breathe out so fully. after very focused breath work, see if you can keep a rhythm, a balanced action in the breath, and ease to the breath. So that the breath feels very free and natural. You can slowly bend your knees. Plant your feet and reach your arms up and over your head. Roll over and just let your right arm be your pillow as you rest your head on your right arm. Now come to a seated pose. The yoga practice is such a wonderful way to bring your awareness inside, to gain greater focus and attention. We honor the practice. Namaste.